So today we are sitting down on a Zoom call with Jen Singley, who ironically was my first real estate agent when I bought my first house. She helped me out with that process, and we've just been staying in touch ever since. She works with KW. She ironically has the exact opposite taste in real estate than I do at this point. She specializes in both the suburbs and the city. She does green real estate. She likes older homes and rehabs better than she likes new construction because of the charm. And she also focuses a lot out of North Philly, and when she is in South Philly, it's more on the east side of Broad Street, whereas I'm west side of South Philly, focusing mostly in Point Breeze, Grad Hospital, and Grace Ferry. So today we're going to sit down with her. We're going to get her expert opinion on a lot of different things going on in the real estate market, and I can't wait to share with you guys. Just for everyone out there and for when I share this, do you want to give us a little background about how you got into real estate, and about your niche and what you do with it?
Sure. Yes, I got in real estate after I bought my house in 2015. And was that 2015? Yeah. And I just thought it was such an easy process. And I was like super annoyed at the time that no one ever told me how easy it was. So I kind of made it my goal to like go out and tell other young people who are sitting on at least 10K that they should buy a house and stop renting from their landlord, especially if you know you're going to be in the same place for at least another like 2 or 3 years. Obviously, I'm not preaching home ownership to people who have jobs they might need to travel for or get relocated. But if you're someone who knows you're going to be in the general area for like 2 or 3 years, I really am. I think real estate's just such a good investment. I've seen my investment, like I barely did any work to my house that I bought, and just looking at the value of what it is now versus 5 years ago, for me doing nothing except for, paying to have a roof over my head is awesome.
Right, because it's not that much different in price than the rent, and you're
Nope.
earning the pay down.
Yep.
And you're getting the leverage of you own an asset that's super expensive, and inflation on that is just going to keep carrying it up, but you're
Yeah.
not the one actually paying for it. It's crazy how it all works out. And like you said, like a lot of people are going to be in the same area for a long time.
Hmm.
Anyway, or at least most of my friends, I asked them like, why wouldn't you buy right now? Because they're like, I
Hmm.
don't know where I'm going to be. And I was like, well, where else would you be besides Philly? Do you have plans to go anywhere else? They're like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. And my rule of thumb, like right now, I'm like, in order for it to be like a really good investment, like with the way that inflation and everything's been going in Philly, like when people ask me, like, how long should I at least plan to be in my house if like I want to like at least break even? I normally say like 2 years. That way you cover your closing costs and then your realtor fees on the sell side. Um, because I have a lot of people who are like, I actually don't know where I might be in 2 years. I was like, okay, well, as long as you'll be here for two, like if people sell in one, sometimes I'll see it like not be a good investment and maybe they should have just rented for that 1 year. But once you get past 2 years, like it's a great investment.
Yeah, anything over two, it really starts to add up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great way to, like, if you have a fixed income, like a salary or something, it's a great way to just like stash money and have something to, you know what I mean? Like when you do go to sell it, you're going to have a big chunk of money. So, um, it's not necessarily a side hustle, but it's something else that's growing you money for having to pay for a roof over your head anyways.
Yeah, it's a way to build wealth with an expense you already had.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That's the best way to put it. So it
Yeah.
sounds like you're kind of pushing towards the suburbs a little bit. When you do move out there, are you going to try to focus more on the suburbs or do both?
I think both. I mean, I'm still like a city girl at heart. I thought that I would have more clients moving to the suburbs, but I really like the majority of my people I know is in the city. So now that I'm getting towards 30, I'm starting to have more clients who are like starting like friends and families and more like stuff who are starting to want to have a family, get to the good school districts, this and that. So I am starting to see a lot of my friends who are in the city, and my clients who are in the city starting to move out to the suburbs. So I would like to do both, and continue that way, because I'm also starting to see like a shift of people who live in the suburbs and their kids are out of school and now they want to move to the city, downsize, and have more walkability to places. So it's kind of cool helping people out with that transition. from city to suburbs or from the suburbs to the city to kind of guide them through that, since I know both. I know the city really, really well, and I know most of the suburbs pretty well, but I'm still learning some of them since it's such like a huge geographic area.
Sure. And I think that's kind of your niche right there, is that you know the city really well and have been there for a while, but
Yeah.
also know the burbs now and are getting better. And there's no better way to learn them than your own home search out there. So like
Yes.
so
Yes.
anything that you say about the burbs is gonna be true because you're living it. Like you're living the
Yes.
home searching experience out there.
Yes. Yes. And like there's places too that it's kind of nice too having clients who are looking out in the suburbs, because places that I would have never considered living, like Havertown, like I would have never thought about living there before. I just didn't know a ton about it. And then once I started to have more and more clients looking there, I'm like, oh, Havertown's awesome. Like, should I consider moving there eventually? I don't know. So it's cool. Like, I don't know. I really like to explore all the places.
Yeah. Where in the suburbs would you say are like the top three like places to search right now?
Oh, it really depends on what you're looking for. I normally tell people to do it based upon your commute for work, if you have a commute for work, because driving in the Philly suburbs, whether you're taking 76 or any of the roads, is terrible. So I like to help guide clients to creating a commute that isn't bad for them, because eventually a lot of us, most people are going to have to go back to work. I know so many people are remote right now, but um a commute is like such a big part of your life if you work 5 days a week. So it really depends on people's circumstances, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something in the search process, like for houses that people don't consider. Like everyone wants to live in a neighborhood that like there's stuff to do on the weekends, but
Yeah.
the commute matters so much more because you're doing that at least 5 days a week.
Yes.
Whereas you might not even go out on a weekend and now
Yes.
like you're trading in five for two and it just doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how I am. People are like, I don't walkability. I was like, well, do you have to drive to work? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well then maybe you shouldn't live, directly in East Passyunk, because your parking every single day is going to be very, very bad.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
little things like that.
Yeah.
So I guess in your search, like what areas did you find to be like interesting for someone who say like works in Philly or does like flexible work in Philly and still wants to get there but wants like a suburban feel?
I think that like the Havertown area is a really good. I'm seeing a lot of young people move there, and it's super quick to get back into the city from there. Um, Obviously, Conshohocken is great. Starting to get very overpriced though. The prices, the increase in prices in Conshohocken over the past couple years has really been insane. My sister lives there now, and so I've been watching the market closely since she bought there a couple years ago, and it's great because it's really easy to get to and from the city on the train, but it's slowly but surely the prices are rising. Um, what else do I
Hawkins
like?
been hyped up for a while
Oh yeah, yeah,
and for
and
good reason, but I
yeah,
think because it's established itself for so long, it's
yeah,
this great of a value.
yeah. Um, but yeah, those are really probably like the two biggest spots I've been seeing people move recently. But yeah, I don't know. Depends what you're looking for, really. Like if you want a lot of land, you want to be close to stuff. I've noticed like Conshohocken has kind of been a really good stepping stone for people because you're still walkable to stuff, but you have like a little bit more space than being in Philly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you're still close enough to Philly
Yeah.
and it all makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
Now, you know, like the north side of Philly 10 times better than I do because I focus
Yeah.
almost entirely in the south.
Yes.
Um, what can you like talk about as far as North Philly and what neighborhoods are hot up there? Like, I guess if you're in your 20s, where do you want to be?
Yep. Wait, that's so funny because you are like the South Philly on the west side of Broad Street. I do South Philly on the east side of Broad Street, so like Passyunk, Dickinson, Narrows, Pensport, and
Sure.
then like I don't stay on the east side of Broad Street, but like most of the time my clients are on the east side of Broad Street from south to north. But I've always lived in the northern part of the city. Obviously went to Temple, then started in Northern Liberties, then bought my first house in Old Richmond, and I'm in Old Kensington / Ludlow, pretty close to Norris Square. And when people ask me the spot to buy right now that they're going to see good appreciation, I tell them North Square, because it's, just north of Old Kensington, still walkable to all the Fishtown spots without having the Fishtown price tag. So um, you can still get a really good deal, and the prices are going up at a quicker rate than you'll see in Central Fishtown, because Central Fishtown is, at this time kind of already priced high. So um, I am definitely recommending Norris Square area to a lot of people right now.
I've been doing the same. I had one client over there, and since it's like really opened my eyes, there's so
Yeah.
much construction, and I think that's
Yeah.
why the appreciation is going to go up. Like you said, is it just has so much room to run, whereas Fishtown's already like really saturated.
Yeah. Yeah. Burke Street on the west side of Front Street right now is just like torn up. Like 3 years ago, it was not. It was just like, oh, driving down Burks. Now it's like annoying because of construction, but you're really going to see all the properties value, like property values go up around there because they're going to have a lot of those bigger new developments.
Yeah, exactly. And the sizes are really interesting over there. Like
Yeah.
one of the ones I just sold was 18 wide, which I haven't seen anything like that in South
Yep.
Philly.
Yep.
And there's a
Yeah.
lot more like multifamily up there, it seems.
Yes. Yeah. There is a lot of RM1 zoning, which it makes it easy for people to do multifamily. But yeah, the lot sizes really vary over there too, though. You'll see an 18 footer and then you'll see like a 12 footer. I feel like in South Philly, it's a little bit more consistent between like 14 and 16 feet wide. But up here, it's kind of the Wild West.
Yeah,
Whoever
really.
sold out the lots, I'm not sure what they were doing.
Right. And do you think the zoning board up there is a little more lenient on what people are allowed to do, or that just kind of comes with the way the parcels were set up?
I think it comes with like the pre-existing zoning. There is a lot more RM1, but I also don't think a lot of the neighbors in the neighborhood go to the zoning meetings to contest a lot of the projects. So that also kind of leads to
I
it
would
too.
think
Like,
so too, with the fact that there's so much like vacant land. There's it's not as established, so there can't be as much
yeah,
pushback on what's happening.
yes, yeah, yeah. Like for example, I probably missed it. I right now have like a parking lot, aka like a vacant lot across from my house, and me and all the neighbors on my street park there. But the lot itself is made up of like 10 parcels. And one of the parcels got like some of it is owned by Philly Housing Authority, some of it's owned by the land bank, and then some of them are privately owned. One of the privately owned parcels got sold last year, and I saw like they put like a zoning notice up on like a stake where that parcel is and like our whole lot. And I meant to go to the zoning meeting to like contest it because it's going to be really annoying to have a house in the middle of like where all me and the neighbors park. But I think I missed it just because it was like not a priority to me.
Right.
So, which I'm sure a lot of other people did too, because like unless you live here, you did not see the zoning notice because they literally just like put it on a piece of wood in the lot, and it was like, hey, we're gonna have this meeting to see if they can build a duplex here or not. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's tough. It seems like it's really tough, like both ways. Like when things go to zoning and it's contested, like there's a lot of heat. And then
Yeah.
also like as a builder, it's so frustrating not to get what you're trying to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's pretty tough. So what are
Yeah.
you looking to get into now? I mean, I saw your initiative, like you just got the green certification. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So obviously I've always had like a passion for sustainability, and just like we have one planet and we need to save it because it's going downhill pretty quickly. And Philly in itself is really dirty. So I've always been a part of like a lot of like cleanup initiatives in the city. With my old job at United by Blue, we were doing cleanups like at least monthly, if not more. I run a group with two other women called Women for a Sustainable Philadelphia, which we changed to People for a Sustainable Philadelphia last year. And I just would like to like educate people more on ways that they can make our city greener and cleaner, and also like the houses they live in. So like an example of this is a lot of people will complain about having electric stoves rather than gas stoves in their house, which I get it. I like cooking with gas better too, but having an electric stove is actually more environmentally friendly. So I'm like, I try to like turn it that way, but not a lot of people get it because if you're someone who likes to cook, you want to cook with gas. Um, And just like smaller things, like the city has some really cool solar panel projects, which I hope this year or next to try to get solar on my house just to,
How
go
would
through the
you get
process
started with
myself.
that?
What?
How would you get started with that? Like, what is the
Um,
process of getting solar?
yeah, so there's a program called Solarize Philly, and they basically help you get, any grant money that the city might be offering, which last year they were offering a ton of grants. I haven't looked into it yet for this year. And then basically help you coordinate getting the solar panels on and then, um, connecting to the grid as well. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I want to go through it myself though, so I can advise my clients on it better. So the green certification that I took is like a national certification. So they kind of talked about stuff like solar panels and other environmentally friendly upgrades for the house on like a national level, which is obviously going to vary from market to market. So that's something I have on my to-do list for this year and next, just so I can really go through the process on my own and then educate my clients on how to do it if they're interested as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going through it yourself will be the best way to figure it out and navigate it.
That is, yeah, going through things myself is like what I need to do to best serve my clients. You know what I mean? It's so much easier to advise on like home repairs, costs of things like your roof and getting your hot water replaced. Like all those things are so much easier when you have done them all yourself. So as much as like it sucked that my first house, like I had to replace my roof and I had to replace the hot water heater and I had a gas leak. Like I had a lot of issues in that house, but it was good I went through them because now when my clients, have any of these issues in the house that they're looking at or the house that they purchased, I can advise on it pretty well.
Right. The experience helps. It's not
Yeah.
so fun at the moment to go through.
Yeah, it's like not fun while it happens, but you always learn from it. So
Right. And you can have like a lot more confidence when you talk about anything that you've already done.
definitely, definitely.
I'm sure you are able to like drum up a lot of business like around where you live just because you live there. So it's easier to talk about it like passionately.
Exactly. Yeah.
That happens to
Yeah.
me all the time. Like I'll show things up in North Square or Northern Liberties or Fishtown, like places like Fishtown. Like it's hard to argue that like someone would want to live in Point Breeze over Fishtown.
Yeah.
But often, like if I show both, they end up picking Point Breeze just because I'm more excited to be in.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep,
that,
yep, yep.
that
Yeah, that's very, and I tell my clients that too. I'll be like, I will tell you, I have always lived in this area. I've obviously sold houses in Point Breeze and Grace Ferry and down in South Philly. I was like, so like, I'm gonna lean a little bit this way, but obviously at the end of the day, like where you want to live is where you want to live. Um, so don't let my opinion affect you too much.
yeah, it's hard not to let it like interfere, but as long as you like
Because
kind of
if you're
disclose
excited
it,
about something, yeah, like you're gonna tell people.
right, that's naturally gonna flow. It
Yeah,
just
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, solar panels are a really cool way to like transition though. And I would have never known the grant was even there until you just mentioned it. You're pretty good at
yeah.
like finding these grants. How do you go about finding all these grant programs and sharing them?
Um, I guess I'm in like every neighborhood Facebook page there is in Philadelphia. So I think that is helpful. I literally read them all every day and people share really good info in those. I'm also part of like the Sustainable Business Network in Philly. So any like sustainable related grants, whether it's with like PICO or PGW or whatnot, I'll normally know those. And then stuff like first time home buyer grants and whatnot, I kind of just learned through either like my office, KW Philly, or through like neighborhood Facebook pages where people are just talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's really cool how you're always sharing about that, like on your social, you're sharing
Yeah.
links and then like informing everyone of what's there and what they can
Yeah.
take advantage of. It's super helpful.
I just like to share when I learn stuff. Like I just like if I think something's cool or important or like good to know, I like to share it on my social media because I'm sure that other people are like, wow, that was cool, important, or good to know too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that definitely happens. Like I see your stuff and
Yeah.
I'm so happy you shared this. That was,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
so where are you at with the electric car purchase?
I'm working on it. I'm so torn. I'm so torn. I don't have like a good charging setup right now, so that's kind of my biggest barrier to entry. I know that you and some people have really influenced me on the Tesla train. uh,
Having the charge
because
setup is makes a big difference though.
yeah,
I
well, the
don't have
range on the Tesla is probably the longest of all the electric vehicles. which is why it's, getting to the top of my list because I was looking at like half and half cars, like cars that are gas powered and also electric. But with the Tesla, you just get such a long range and it charges pretty quickly. So I'm kind of leaning towards that, but I'm like, it's so annoying for me. It's like, I, for some reason, think like a home purchase is easier than a car purchase. And it's like totally not. But I'm just like so much more familiar with it. Like I feel like I could more easily pull the trigger on a house than I could on a car.
Yeah, it's tough too because I think like house to house things don't change all that much.
Yeah.
So like the differentiation factors aren't like crazy. But the car you pick, like one car to another car, is a totally different thing.
Yes. And I feel like I can go through a house and know exactly what is going on with like the mechanicals of it. If I open a hood of a car, I'm like, what's going on here? So for me, like buying a house isn't scary because I'm like, oh, I can, like I understand what's going on with the HVAC system. I understand how the water is heated. Like I get where the sewage is going. But with a car, I'm like, where does this go? How does this make the car start? Like I'm very clueless when it comes to cars. So
Right.
it's a lot scarier of a purchase for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. I don't know that much about cars. I just knew
Yeah.
that I wanted one that was electric.
Yeah.
And I discounted like how important the charging was and the range, but
Yeah.
I already think like the range is not enough, so I can't imagine having anything with even less range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was I was looking at a car and it was half gas and half electric. I forget which car it was. It might have been the Audi. There's like an Audi plug-in and gas powered car. And I was considering it for a while because in the city you don't drive that far. So like if I have to go to even like the furthest part of the city from me, like West Philly, what's it going to be like 4 or 5 miles? The range was 18 miles. And I was like, I just can't do
18?
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
you
It's
would
like
never be able
obviously
to
you
do it.
get gas on top of it. So like if I were to just like have a couple appointments in one day, maybe I'll go to like West Philly, South Philly, Fairmount, and then come home. Yeah, I'd probably still be under that 18. And then I could charge and do it again the next day. But that is not a long-term solution. Like I would be relying on gas a lot more with that car. And yeah, so
Yeah, you'd probably catch yourself doing gas a little more often, which would
oh
defeat
my
the
God, yeah.
purpose
I
of
mean,
the purchase.
obviously I would hedge my gas usage a lot with that, but at the same time, it's just, yeah. And I don't really have a good charging setup at my house right now. So, and I was exploring places down by my office. I was like driving around this parking garage trying to figure out where the electric charging station was so I could like, just know before I make this big purchase. I couldn't find it. So I kind of just like put my search on hold for a little bit right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I discounted that way too much. I don't
Yeah.
have any good way to charge, so I just charge in the garage, which is not
Yeah.
bad, not the end of the world. Um, but
But
then
you have to
also
like make
get
sure
into the
you
habit.
have something to do nearby the garage,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that part's not hard. I'll just like bring a book or I'll bring my laptop and just connect
Yeah.
it to a hotspot.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ways to kill like 45 minutes.
True.
It's
True.
not bad.
Yeah. But yeah, what else you got?
Let me go to my cheat sheet and see what else we have. Um, you answered a lot of the things that I had prepared already, just like naturally.
Yeah. Cool.
I think there's a couple more. So, what's your opinion on multifamily houses versus single family?
Oh yeah. I saw this question. I was like, huh. So I'm torn on it. From an investment standpoint, you want to buy multis all day, most likely.
Right.
Um, but from a community building in Philadelphia standpoint, sometimes I wish there were less multis being built because it oftentimes leads to having more rent. Like a lot of times in the city, you want to have like a block or like a neighborhood that's a good mix of renters and owner occupants because the owner occupants will always kind of like take better care of the block and, just make sure like there's no riffraff and whatnot. Whereas when you have a bunch of multifamilies, you're going to have majority of renters in the neighborhood, which leans to not always taking care of the neighborhood as well. So up where I am right now, it kind of seems like any new construction that is being built like is multifamily, which I don't think is good for a neighborhood's longevity, for parking down the road, those sort of things. But if you're looking at it strictly from an investment standpoint, yeah, you want that multifamily. Like you want to either be an owner occupant, live in one, rent out the other, have the other unit cover your mortgage or at least a big part of it. Or, even if you're an investor, you're going to get a lot more rental income from 2 3 bedroom units than you will from one big, 3 bath house.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense from an investment standpoint. But you
I
bring up
am
a lot of good points, like
Yeah,
with
I'm
like
like really
parking.
torn on the issue, like really torn on it because I'm big, like I like to see people investing their money and, um, you know, doing that sort of thing. But at the same time, I want to keep a good community who's going to live there for a little while, and like really take pride in their home ownership. So it's definitely a toss up.
Yeah, I think it's cool when they condo them out and make it so
Yes,
that you can buy the duplexes in pieces if you wanted
yes,
to, or sell it down the line in pieces, because then that kind of solves at least the community sense of the issue,
yep,
and it opens up a new price point for people to get in at, um,
yep.
as opposed to the larger single family or buying the entire duplex.
That is very true. Yeah, because like right now in my neighborhood, they were selling like large single families, like brand new, for like four something. Whereas if you got half of that in the condo version, you could get it in like the high twos or low threes. So it's like if you want to buy new construction and you don't have the budget for the full big giant single family home, you can still have like a pretty brand new property, just at a lower price.
Right, and I think the tough part is finding like a place right now. Like if you only want one or two roommates,
Hmm.
you don't need like a four bedroom house, so to
Yep.
speak, with 3 bathrooms. You might just want like a condo
Yep.
type situation that has only 2 bedrooms and like a huge hangout space, or like 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
So I wish they would start doing that more, but we'll see.
Yeah. I've also seen an issue with condos where they don't really have a living room though. So like I'll see people build triplexes over here and I'll have
Crazy.
clients like for them. Yeah, and you're like, "Okay, cool. I have a kitchen and I have 2 bedrooms, but like where's the living room?"
Like there's none. Like I've
Yeah.
seen a couple that have like absolutely none.
Yeah.
And it's not like the bedrooms are so sizable that like you can just live out of your bedroom.
Yeah, no, they're like small and I'm like this is dumb. I guess like if it's good for two roommates who like maybe don't know each other and are just like need a roommate so that they could have lower rent. But it's not very inviting for like social to have a social engagement and like hang out and like watch a movie.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not like a inner apartment community atmosphere.
Yes,
It's meant
thank you.
for purpose.
That is exactly the terminology I was looking for.
Um, well, speaking of like layouts that don't work, are there any things that you see when you go to search for a house that like when you walk in and like you can't? I think the hard part is a lot of clients will see something online and they'll show it to you and be like, I like this one. Can we look at it? But you
Yes,
can tell from your expertise in the pictures like something is messed up.
yes,
Are there things like that you notice come up frequently for you?
yes. One thing, I think this is me being super picky, but one thing that really bothers me when I see like flips is when there's gapping between the baseboard and the flooring, and they didn't put the piece of like shoe molding or quarter round in. That is for me a telltale sign of a cheap flipper. Like you did not pay to put the shoe molding in on your baseboard. So I just have this thing where like if I see that in the photos, I expect it to be a bad flip. I'm like, oh, we're gonna go in. I'm gonna find more stuff that I don't like. And that's just me being picky, but a lot of times it is. It's like you need that as a finishing piece of your baseboard, and when people don't add it in, it bothers me. Um,
I mean, that's a really
what
good
else?
point too.
What?
I mean, it's good that you pick up on that because then you know
Yeah.
they probably finished something else really cheaply, just all
Yes.
of
Yeah.
so something, just a place to avoid. So I've
Yeah.
had a lot of friends who have bought and then like 3, 4 months down the line, they're like everything is falling apart.
It stresses me out. So that's like my biggest fear is getting that call like 2 or 3 months later that something has gone wrong. Um, so I am like huge. I know like a lot of agents who are super busy are like, oh yeah, I don't even go to my clients' home inspections anymore. I'm like, going to the home inspection is probably the most important part of your client's home buying process. Because I love my home inspectors, but even there's stuff that they miss. Like they can't catch everything every single time. So like for example, I was at a home inspection this weekend and the I go to the guy, it was not my normal home inspector and he didn't test the washer dryer and it was an inclusion in the sale and it was not an inclusion as is. It was just a regular inclusion. So I was like, "Oh, do you test the washer dryer normally?" He's like, "Oh, sometimes." I'm like, "Okay, well, you were about to leave the basement. I'm gonna test them. Dryer doesn't work. Totally busted." Like, yeah, it's not a deal breaker on if my client's gonna buy the home or not, but like if I can get them a $500 credit or a new dryer, I'm going to.
Yeah, of
Um,
course. That's a huge catch by you.
yeah. And just like little stuff. I have just had headaches if I don't go to the home inspection. I can't like negotiate properly on my client's behalf. Um, so yeah, that is just big for me. But some other stuff that I noticed when going through a house that's like a red flag. Um, I don't know.
What about anything good like that you are happy to walk in and see that you were
Oh,
expecting?
oh, I know that there's stuff because I can picture myself saying, I love new windows. I love when a house has new windows. That always makes me happy to see because I had some window issues at my house. So that's just like a personal thing based upon my past experience. Um, New caulking, like if someone recently caulked the windows and everything, I appreciate that because that's something that homeowners don't realize they need to do as frequently as they actually do. Just because I don't know, growing up, you probably didn't see your parents doing it. And also, like renting, you never had to deal with that. But those are like small things that you need to watch all the time. Um, what else do I love? I love a good pocket door. That has nothing to do with 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 whether a house is going to be good or bad, but I think it's a really good spatial use in the city, especially in really small row homes. Like if you have the bathroom in the middle of the house and you have a pocket door instead of a door that swings open, sometimes it makes a world of a difference. Um, and properly exposed brick. If they have exposed brick, making sure it's like sealed properly and not just like they exposed it and now it's just creating dust all the time in your house.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can
Yeah.
tell right away if it was well done or not.
Yes, yeah. I actually just recently ran into this is my very first time seeing it. Exposed brick on the front of the house. So normally you see it on one of like the party walls, but this house my client like the brick was on the front of the house and I was like, "Oh, that's really weird. I've actually like never seen that before." And the home inspector was like, "That's because you don't really want to expose that brick because there's no insulation now. Like you literally just have the facade, you have the brick on the inside, and that's it." And I was like, "Oh, so like it was tough to decide if my client like yeah that's not going to be a deal breaker in their home purchase, but it's something to think about. Like in the winter that brick exposed on the front of your house is going to be really super cold.
Right.
um
And to keep the room warmer, you probably have to pay a little more.
yes, exactly, so it's like not energy efficient either. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Not energy efficient is super not green.
I know their gas bill is going to be through the roof.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think like the exposed brick is something that seems super hot right now too, like everywhere. The
Oh,
different
it just makes
accents.
a house cozy. I love it.
Yeah, it adds charm. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
I'm a big fan of exposed brick when it's done the right way.
Right. Now, I
Yeah.
mean, you don't really see that in new construction though. What is your opinion on new construction versus not?
Oh, you know what I'm gonna say. I know you're a big new construction guy, but I'm a big believer in old homes. Um, just because they've been standing for so long. And even when they do have the little bit of a slant in the floor, which we see in all Philadelphia homes,
Right.
um, that half a centimeter slant was generated over 100 years, and it's probably not going to slant any more than that. So it's just something you deal with. Um, yeah, I just love an old home when it was built with stone and brick versus plywood and two by fours. It just makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I have to admit, there's a lot more charm in the two stories. It's
Yeah.
just hard to argue with the tax abatement, but it goes back
Oh,
to whether you're thinking about it as an investment or not.
exactly, exactly. The tax abatement is a wonderful thing, which some builders will put on a rehab. You know what I mean? Like I've seen tax abatements on rehabs, but not everyone does the same way they do with new construction.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What is the rule to in order to get the abatement on rehab? Do you know? I forget.
Yeah, so you basically only the abated value is only the value of the improvement on the house. So say you buy an existing house for like 150,000 and you're now selling it for 350, the 200,000 is abated.
Sure.
So it's like it's not minus the value of the land, it's the value of the existing property.
Right. Is there a percentage like difference that they have to make on the house? Like they have to be reconstructing a certain amount of the house in order to get the
Yes,
abatement?
there is. I don't remember what it is because I haven't had to go through on this in over a year. Why do I want to say that's 35%? I could be wrong though.
No, I was
It
curious.
doesn't
I
it
don't
doesn't have to be a huge amount. Like I have seen people get like a abatement on like a $50,000 improvement.
really.
So
It's not
yeah,
that
it doesn't have
bad.
to be a
It's
huge
just not
amount, but a lot
worth
of
the
people
trouble,
do,
maybe.
yeah, a lot of people don't go through it because it's like not worth the hassle.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why you don't see it a lot. But yeah, you can, as long as it's a big improvement over, I forget what the amount is, you can like apply for the abatement. But they might have also gotten stricter with that since they changed the abatement this past year. So
Yeah, we'll see.
yeah.
That's in effect now. It's you had to have already had it like, and otherwise it's the new one, right?
2020. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a client who's under construction for a new construction house right now. And we were like so stressed for the abatement, like, because when she went under contract, the builder wouldn't accept a contingency that her offer is contingent upon the abatement getting approved. So it was really risky for us to still go under contract and like not have the approval yet. But literally, I feel like it was like December 15th. We got the abatement paperwork back, and I was like, thank God.
Yeah, because now it's about
Yeah.
at that point where like it's gonna cut off and people are gonna miss it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That'll change the game. I think the
Yeah.
only other question I have for you is about Philly and like where you think it's going and like try to be as unbiased as you can because obviously you've been in the market for a long time and lived around the area
Yeah.
for forever. Like, do you think Philly
Yeah.
is one of the better cities to be on the East Coast and why?
How am I supposed to be? I can't be unbiased in this. I'm just gonna tell you right
And
now.
you can be biased.
Um, yeah. I just think there's so much going on right now, whether it's development in residential homes, businesses that are moving here, new small businesses that were existing here that are growing quickly. Um, it's I'm seeing so many people moving here from New York right now. It's insane. Um, so many people. I think it's just because Philly, you still get the city feel, but you can so easily leave. Like it's not hard to have a car and just drive out to go on a hike somewhere. We always have the Wissahickon, which is a wonderful thing. If you want to get out into nature on the weekend, it's so close for no matter where you live in the city. Uh, and yeah, I don't know. I just think it's the best place to live. You've got proximity to the mountains, proximity to the shore, proximity to the other big cities like New York, Boston, DC, if you want to go to them. I just think it's such like a nice central location for anyone. Easy to fly from Philly Airport. I think is pretty decent. Would much rather fly out of here than JFK. Um, And yeah, for now it's a good mix of walkable and drivable, which is really important to me because for my job obviously I have to drive everywhere, but on the weekends, and when I don't really need to go too far, it's really easy to walk anywhere you want. So I just love the mix of all that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of perks, and I think you hit them all,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
then some. Like
Yeah.
you nailed that question.
My biggest qualms are the crime and the trash, but hopefully we'll continue to, all the residents of Philadelphia will band together and try to make both of those things better. Um, and be kind to your neighbor and all that stuff that doesn't always happen here. But we'll see.
Yeah, that one might take a little longer. I feel like it's part of the
Yeah.
culture to be a little
Yeah.
tougher. But I think, yeah, I mean, you're running a lot of good initiatives to change the cleanliness, which is awesome. And I think the crime will have to go down as the city develops a little more. And there's just more people around to see what's going on.
More eyes and ears.
Yeah, to keep people honest. So
hmm
we'll see how it goes. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
Wow. The best time to buy a house was 5 years ago. I'll tell you that much.
You
There's
got
that. I
started
think
at the right time.
yeah. There. I think there's like an old ancient proverb that's like the best time to plant a tree was like 30 years ago or something like that. I forget exactly what the proverb is, but I think it goes the same for housing. Is that uh, you know even if it wasn't the best time to buy, you might have bought when the market was a little bit higher. You're still paying the equity down versus paying rent all those years. So I know there's like a lot of people right now who are like, oh, I don't want to buy because prices are inflated right now. I'm just going to rent for the next year. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to keep paying $1,800 a month to your landlord versus to yourself just because you want to save a couple $1,000 over 30 years. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I just think that it's not like buying a house isn't as scary as people think. So that's why I got in this business, just explain that to people because it's really, really not that scary.
Yeah, definitely. And I think once people take the plunge, the quote goes something along the lines of the only regret you're going to have is not doing it sooner, like not
There you
buying
go.
sooner. And
Yep.
I wish I had gotten started back when you did, but I'm really thankful you helped me a couple years ago get into the game. It's been,
Yes. Yeah. I always think that's funny. I was like, when you emailed me about this, I was like, we should talk about how we met. Like, I met you. You were a Zillow lead, like just a random like person that like inquired about a property on Zillow, and it
yeah,
was like you and your friends, and we looked at like a couple of shady houses, and then yeah,
yeah. We were looking at like a bunch of like just houses over by Temple, and then all of a sudden,
yeah,
like the new construction stuff popped up, and you took
yeah,
me to a bunch of different neighborhoods.
yeah,
And I ended up in Point Breeze. I think you took me to Dickinson Narrows. We were in Brewery Town. We looked
yeah,
all over the place.
yeah.
That was fun. I think
But now
another
you're the king
thing,
of
yeah, I ended up in Point Breeze somehow. Um, but another thing that I think people need to keep in mind right now, as far as like buying, it's not so much like the price tag or like the sticker price. It's the rates are so low. It's the monthly payment is so different.
Point
So I constantly battle with my clients. Like you shouldn't be like trying to wait until the prices go down, because even if the prices go down and rates end up going up, you could be paying more every month.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes,
so it's all about the monthly cash flow. That
yes,
should be the only thing that really matters right now, because you're never going
yes.
to get a lower monthly payment on prices than you'll see right now.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. That is huge with me too. Like when I speak with a new client about buying, I don't the first question I ask them regarding budget is never like, what are you looking to spend on a house? It's where do you want to keep your monthly payment at? And what do you feel comfortable with your monthly payment? Because that will also, a sale price of something that's 400,000 where the taxes are abated is very different than a sale price of 400,000 where you have I don't know, six or $8,000 in taxes annually. And the same goes with what your rate is on your mortgage, how much interest you're going to be paying monthly. So yes, I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm a big fan of the monthly payment as your guiding number through your home buying process.
Yeah, that's huge. And a lot of
Mhm.
people like a lot of people who are new to the home buying process, they just kind of pull the number for their budget out of thin air if you ask them for like
Yeah.
house price. Whereas
Yeah.
monthly budget, I feel like is easier for them to put some logic into why they got to that number.
Yes, exactly. I always like to get the monthly payment nailed down with my clients before we go out looking, because sometimes they're like, oh, yeah, I have friends who bought in this range. So I think I'll probably be in that range too. But I'm like, well, we want to make sure that's a monthly payment you're happy with, because I don't want to, find a house you fall in love with. You be like, okay, let me put an offer on. We look at the cost sheet and you're like, oh, that's like $500 a month more than I feel comfortable with spending as
Right.
one of my big monthly expenses.
Right. I find it happens a lot in the other direction too, like with the abatement. People like
Yes,
don't realize how much they can afford and not have a
yes,
crazy monthly payment. Uh,
yes.
like sometimes houses without abatements at like 250 or even 300,000 will be the same price per month as something at 400 or 450 with the way the rates
Yes.
are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to start doing that. I haven't been asking monthly payment. I
Oh
don't.
my gosh. Yeah. Add that to when you talk to a buyer for the first time. And it's like, it's night and day to get them educated on that piece of the process, like early on.
Oh, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
you're still running leads off of Zillow?
I do. Yeah. I know it's a sin. And anyone who hears me say that I pay for Zillow leads is like, oh, you're selling out to the devil. But it's a really great way for me to meet people outside of my sphere, or like my group of friends and family, that want to move to Philadelphia. And I've noticed that the majority of people who do call into Zillow are people from out of town. And I really enjoy helping people who are moving here from another city, so I can kind of educate them on like the different neighborhoods and what I think might work best for them. Versus, most of my other clients are people who already live there. They're already like, oh, I've always lived in Passyunk, so I want to live somewhere near Passyunk. Whereas with a new client, like a lot of the people who call in on Zillow are like, oh, I'm moving here, I'm getting relocated from Colorado, or recently it's been a lot of people from New York. Oh, I used to have to go to my office every day, but now that I'm remote, I would move to Philly and buy because I can afford to buy there. And I've always loved Philly, but my job's been in New York. So um, I enjoy it. I don't think I'll always pay for it because, yeah, Zillow is the devil, and one day they're going to run us all the real estate agents out of our own business. But um, I like it. It's cool to meet new people that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of perks. Like it keeps you on your toes working with
Yeah.
people you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
And it gives you those people who aren't like familiar with Philly. So you get to really just you've built up this expertise over so many years. It just makes sense to link the two and have
Yeah.
them like that. Because that's the trouble I seem to have with a lot of people who are like fairly familiar with Philly is they don't really know it, but they think they know it because they visited like a couple friends one or two times. And they have so many like preconceived notions that you have to just restart from the beginning
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
them back to like a even playing field on
Yes.
everything. So Zillow leads, I mean, as much as they are the devil, it's for the better as far
Mhm.
as like getting good experience. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for all your time today. I'm gonna
Of
make sure we
course.
get some good clips and I'll send them over so you can do whatever you want with them. Um,
Awesome.
share them up.